Liam Wilson, välkommen till MMA-Podden.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is interesting because now we're going into like another side of the fighting game.
Yeah.
I always mostly talk about MMA when it comes to this podcast, but today we're going to talk about bare-knuckle boxing, king of the streets, and everything that you do.
Yes.
But before we start, just like, who are you and how did you wind up in Sweden?
So I'm Liam Wilson and known as English Wilf from King of the Streets. I ended up in Sweden I was trying to move away from my life in England. When I come out the army, I was sort of lost a little bit. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I was always like partying and going out drinking and fighting too much, and I didn't like it, that person I'd become. So a little bit after that, my dad passed away, and then I knew that was enough for me in England. I needed to get away, so I got a job as a guide. I did a season in France skiing, and then a season in Gran Canaria, and then I met a Swedish girl in Gran Canaria, and then ended up moving to Sweden with her. And then I met my wife now in my first gym that I trained at, which is SBR, Athlete Factory, Waldo's gym. And that's how I ended up here. And then since then, I've set up a life for myself here. I've been here for 5 years now. I'm a Swedish citizen, so it's cool. And I'm married, have a kid, all grown up.
So you wanted to change, and you really changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweden has been a big help for me. Like with that's been so good for me. England is where I'm from, but like Sweden is definitely my home now for sure.
In what way has it changed you?
It's just like it's just a better way of life here for me. Away from all of the distractions that is in England, it's a lot easier for me to be focused on other stuff rather than the bad stuff I was back in England. So, and then when I met my wife and we had fighting in common, she also competes. We just got stuck into the fighting, and just concentrated completely on that. So, it's been good to me in that way.
Where in England are you from?
Just outside of Liverpool.
Yeah. I've heard stuff about Liverpool.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, it's an amazing city to visit. For me to live there. You see the bad sides when you live in somewhere. But to go there to visit it's an amazing city for sure.
How is it to go back now?
Oh, I love going back. It's good. A week and then the novelty wears off, but it's fun to go back now. I like to go home and I miss my friends and family and stuff like that, especially now because when I did leave, it was on completely different. I was a completely different person when I left, and then I come when I go back now, I'm super proud of what I'm doing at the moment and where I am and what I've accomplished. So it's nice to go back and be happy about who I am rather than running away from who I was back then. So it's nice and completely different. It's cool.
What did they say when you wanted to leave?
They thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
Actually, they knew I needed to do that to get away from it. So they were happy that I was trying to do something to better myself almost. So yeah.
What brought you into the army at 16? I don't know how it is in England, but I think here in Sweden it's 18 the earliest. What?
Yeah, because all my friends knew what they wanted to do. They were staying on after school or going to college and stuff like that, and I just had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I'm good at when I get put in situations where I'm forced to do something, I'm really good at it. So I just put myself in that situation and I was good at it. So I joined when I was 16 and I was in the Queen's Horse Guards. So I was a guard on Buckingham Palace. And it was a real strict regiment, and it gave me a lot of discipline and how to look after myself, not relying on my mum. I'm an only child, so I've been spoilt most of my life. So to go in there on my own, and it really just made me become like my own person and like domesticated. So yeah, so that's why I didn't know what to do when I left school, so I just took that option, and it was good at the time. Now I'm happy I've done it, but I wouldn't do it now.
How long were you in? 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
5 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And after that, you went to France, then Spain, and now Sweden. You ended up in Sweden.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's been a journey, a long one. Now I look back at it, and even though it was a long and a hard journey, and I messed up so many times along that way as well, trying to better myself. It was, I look back now, I've had so many experiences, met so many amazing people, and been like traveled to so many like nice places. So now I can look back on it, and it was an amazing journey. But at the time, it was definitely hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what brought you into fighting from the beginning? No, I'm not talking about fighting on the streets, but I mean real practicing martial arts.
Just when I come to Sweden, I like I had a tight group of friends at home, and I missed them when I moved away. So when I come to Sweden, I needed something to fill that gap, because I didn't have anyone here. And I started a SBR Athlete Factory, and I was addicted to training. Like, I was training double classes every time I went, every day, jiu-jitsu, then Muay Thai, and I was hooked on it. So I wanted to fight like competing wise as quickly as possible. So I can first start competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then I started competing in MMA like pretty quick into the training, because before I come to Sweden, I had not been in a martial arts gym whatsoever, and I was 27 when I come to Sweden. So I understood that was really late to start like thinking I'm going to be in the UFC or something, but I just was addicted to the training, and I just threw myself in the deep end. I started doing competing in jiu-jitsu and then MMA, and then I seen like a thing pop up on Facebook, an event looking for a fighter for a title fight in not title fight, in K1 Pro Rules. So that would have been I hadn't competed without shin pads before. So I just applied for it, and this guy was unbeaten, like 5-0. He'd done bare knuckle boxing, he'd done K1, and I went there and I did full 5 rounds pro K1 for my first ever full contact, and it was like I was not expecting to go that far, and I'd never done that before, so it was a real eye opener. But it got me more hooked on the full contact. I didn't want to go and compete again with shin guards or head guard or anything like that. I knew full contact was my thing after that.
How did the fight go?
He won on points, but it went the full 5 rounds, and he had never been out of the first round. He'd always knocked his opponents out. So I was impressed with what I'd done, you know, and it was a big step. And everything changed after that, because I was hooked on that, and then I'd been in contact with the show in England. The next fight that I applied for, I got offered a title fight, but in bare knuckle boxing, against a very experienced boxer, who's now British bare knuckle boxing champion in the biggest event in England. So even though he was more experienced, it was for a title, and it was in bare knuckle boxing, and I wanted to give it a try, even though I'd never done boxing in my life. And I really took like I got knocked out really badly in front of my family and my friends and stuff like that. And then at that point, after that fight, I took 2 more losses, and they were not, like, it was a bad time for me. Like, I was questioning everything about it. Like, is this stupid? Like, my family, my friends were saying, like, you should stop doing this, like, this is stupid. And especially after the knockout and bare knuckle boxing, they were super worried about me and like thought I was being stupid, and I was thinking maybe I'm being stupid as well. But so that part of the time of through fighting was the hardest part for me, because I'd got to where I was so fast, but then I was starting to doubt whether what I was doing was stupid, because I took 3 bad losses in a row, and to hear like everybody who loves you and your family and friends telling you to stop, it was like a real hard part for me, I think.
How much did you have to think?
That's what led me onto King of the Streets, actually, because after them 3 bad losses, against good guys, I say bad losses, I didn't get like battered. They were just bad losses. I lost in Lethway, I lost in bare knuckle boxing. And the Lethway one looked bad as well, because I got like a real bad cut across my eye, so there was a lot of blood and stuff like that. So it looked a lot worse than it was, but it was still a bad loss to me. And the bare knuckle boxing, the knockout, when I took that loss as well. So then after that, when I was doubting and I was seeing King of the Streets, I didn't tell anybody that I was going to fight on King of the Streets. I just something that I needed to do for myself. Just to see if I had like, to see if I had something, or whether what I thought I had gone, you know. I didn't have like the fire. It was like killed me almost, because I had not been competing all my life. I had never experienced losses like that before, so they hit me hard, and especially hearing my family and friends say that sort of stuff. So when I applied for King of the Streets,
before we go into King of the Streets,
sorry.
No worries. This is a great story, but I just want to go back to the losses and the way you handled them mentally. I mean, what did you do? Did you, I don't know, listen to mental training?
I think I was listening to some mental training at the time, but also I knew why I was fighting, and I knew the good I was getting out of it, and I knew if I wasn't doing that, I was going to be doing something that I was doing before, which I didn't like, you know, like whatever I was doing in England. So I knew that part, for that part alone, I knew I needed and wanted to carry on with the fighting, because the training and the competing I was getting so much good out of it for me. So I was certain on that part. It was just the doubt in my mind when I hear people that loves me telling me to stop, that it's stupid. So it was. I think that's what kept me in it, because I knew if I wasn't doing that, what would I be doing? And it wouldn't have been better than what I was doing now. So I knew how much good I was getting out of competing and training. So I think that's what kept me in it, like the long time, you know. Yeah. Like the main reason was because if I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing? And it would be nothing, or something not as good as where I was. So
because I mean, it's easy when you start to doubt yourself, it becomes like a poison.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just start doubting, and then you go in with the thing with the thought I'm gonna lose.
Yeah.
And then you start losing, and again and again and again, and that's why I think it's interesting to see, because now you're on a winning streak.
Yeah. So
exactly. Something changed.
Yeah, it was when I started when I got knocked out with Rocky, his name was, who I was competing against. Even though I got knocked out, my fights before in Muay Thai and stuff like that, I was a slow starter. You know, I didn't respect punches and stuff as much. It would take me around to get going properly. And I knew when I went to bare knuckle boxing, I needed to stop that. I needed to like wake up quicker, otherwise I was going to get hurt doing it. So when I went in with Rocky, my intention was to just stand and go toe to toe with him. And that's how it ended, with me getting knocked out. But it's something I needed to do, because what I was doing before, like with Muay Thai and stuff, wouldn't have worked in bare knuckle boxing. I would have got like a lot more like damaged from it, you know. So even though I got knocked out, I needed to do that to wake up, like to change something to change in me. To otherwise, if I didn't have that, I knew it would have been the wrong decision to be going into the bare knuckle side of it. So even though I got knocked out, there was a lesson from it, and I did do that for a reason. I wanted to go toe to toe with that guy quickly, because that's the total opposite as what I'd been doing in other fights, and I knew I needed to wake myself up. So almost. So after that, yeah, then that led me to the King of the Streets.
King of the Streets.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, interesting. Now, tell me the story about King of the Streets. How and how did you discover it, and why did you apply for it?
I discovered it on, I think I was just flicking through Instagram, and then I'd seen one of the clips, and then I started following them, and then I messaged them and just said I was interested in fighting, and then you have to fill in like your background and your weight class and stuff like that. There is like a form to fill in, and then I got matched. And then I didn't tell anybody I was going to fight on King of the Streets, because it's something I needed to do for myself. I think King of the Streets was going to be the decider for me. If I would have took a loss again, then I probably would have like stopped competing altogether, because I needed that for myself to just know that I still had something, you know, not just be like a fighter, like not thinking, just wanting to fight like stupidly. So when I applied and I got matched, just my wife, who was pregnant at the time, just me and her went down together. We're not part of any hooligan firm or anything like that. It was just me and her, and we went down on our own. And I think like we got a lot of respect off that from the guys who run it. And after my fight, I won that fight, and I'd been training left way with the headbutts. I won the fight through a headbutt. I cut the guy badly with a headbutt, and then I took him down and I won by ground and pound. But it was the cut that made him bleed, and then I was able to take him down. And after that fight, I got on with the guys down there so well. Then I become part of like the King of the Streets, like organization, basically.
How was it to enter King of the Streets? Because I've seen it a bunch on YouTube, and as I told you before, I've been watching lots of King of the Streets this morning.
I'm so lucky, because that event in that location was by far one of the best I've competed on King of the Streets. The first one, it was like in an abandoned warehouse almost, and there was like graffiti all over the place, and at that time there was a lot of people coming to watch, like from the hooligan firms, so there was a lot more people. Now it's a lot more live stream, but back then a lot more hooligan firms were coming down. So like the hooligan firms from Hammarby and stuff like that, they had a lot of like supporters for their guys who were fighting on the same show that I was fighting on. So it was full of like that type of crowd, like hooligans, and I've never been part of that at all. So I've seen on TV green streets and stuff like that, but to be there and like to be around that atmosphere was amazing. And not only that, but how respectful everybody was about it. You know, they had their fighters, even though there was rival firms there. There's never any animosity towards each other or any trouble towards each other, because the fighters are the ones there representing them. So they respect the fighters who are competing there so much that that's enough, you know, for them. And it's the atmosphere there is just something else. It's crazy. It's intimidating to go down there, especially for me, who I've never been around that before. I've like fought on the streets, but not on like an organized fight like this with like people who have their own supporters, and I'm there on my own with my pregnant wife. You know what I mean? So it was a completely crazy experience, but it's by far, you cannot beat that type of show, for sure. The atmosphere and the respect you get there is crazy. I love it. Like, it's amazing.
How was the feeling when you won?
Oh, it meant so much to me because I needed it so much. It was like a real big, like I was on the fence at that point whether I was going to stop or whether I was going to continue. And that fight did me so much good because I've competed in Lethway, K1, MMA, Muay Thai, so I've competed in it all. But for King of the Streets, all of that came together. You know, I took parts from all of it, and it won me the fight. And I knew then that that's what I wanted to do because I have an average record in MMA and Muay Thai and K1, but for the King of the Streets, it's like I took the best parts of all of them sports that I've been competing in and used it for King of the Streets. And now I would say my style in fighting is King of the Streets. I've adapted it for King of the Streets, and it just does me so well to have done all of them things in the past and put it into this, because it's just made me like the fighter I am now.
What would you say is the difference between King of the Streets fighting and fighting, let's say, MMA or Lethway?
It's no rules, no rounds. I mean, it's like you can do anything. You know, you can eye gouge, you can kick in the nuts, you can pull hair, you can fish hook, you can do any of that. Not a lot of people do it. There is some mutual respect there. I mean, if somebody does it, of course, you're going to get karma and it's going to come back to you. I myself, I don't do that type of stuff. I haven't needed to. If someone done it to me, of course, I would do it to them, of course. But I've just been able to use what I know to win a fight like that. I've never been in a position where I've felt like I've needed to poke someone in the eye or fish hook them or something like that. The headbutts aren't enough for me to win a fight. They're just so, when you mix MMA with the Lethway side of it, with the headbutts, if you can get somebody and if you can mount somebody even from a clinch, people don't know how to defend against headbutts. It's, unless you train Lethway, even training Lethway, there's not a certain way you can defend. You can try and not do certain things that put you in a position to be headbutted. But if you mount somebody in King of the Streets and you know how to do the headbutts, it's game over. I mean, you can do ground and pound, and then they can grab your hands, and then you can just headbutt them with they have no guard whatsoever. So then they go to guard again, and then you can just ground and pound. It's just not a nice place to be in if you're on the bottom there.
Yeah, I saw your headbutt actually. I saw the fight, and for me it looked like extremely unexpected for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the same fight or if you've done it twice, but I know that when you mounted a guy and you started headbutting, and it was like it was over.
Yeah, it was over, exactly. That's what I mean. It's that guy had done MMA before. Also, you can decide whether you want to do submissions or no submissions in King of the Streets. So that guy at the time, he didn't want to do submissions, so I knew straight away he didn't want to be taken down. So that's what my plan was. So I went in there and I took him down and I mounted him, and it's bad enough being mounted in King of the Streets, but when you can headbutt as well, it's so nasty, like position to be in. I mean, being mounted in any sport is not nice, but when the headbutts are involved, it's like it's game over. I think it's impossible to recover from.
Is the feeling, or let's say the nerves, let's just call it the nerves, is it the same kind of nerves going into a King of the Street fight as any other fight, or would you say it's different?
I used to be a lot more nervous in other fights. King of the Streets is, people comment on the way I am all the time because they say like I'm so calm. I don't look bothered at all, and I just use that nervous. I don't get nervous or worked up. the person I am inside of there is not the person I am. Like speaking to you now, I need to be a different person. No, I would not like to walk around the person I am fighting in King of the Streets. It's just not possible to do that, and I wouldn't be a nice person. But you need to be a different person when you're fighting there, because the type of fight it is dangerous, and them type of people you're fighting, they do want to kill you there and then as well. So the person I am in there is takes away the nervousness. It's not something I'm trying to pretend to be. It's just that's the person I've created to be inside the ring for King of the Street. So maybe 3 of the 4 fights that I've had in King of the Streets, I've won on the stare down, because I will shake everybody's hand. I'm super respectful, but then the stare down starts and I'll show the person that I be inside the ring on the stare down, and I can see people trying to pretend or put on an act to try and like act like it doesn't bother them. But for me, it doesn't. Like, I'm generally like, I'm just showing them the person I'm going to be inside of there. And for me, I don't get nerves overwhelming me. I just use them in the right way. I just, completely change when I'm in there. So the nerves for me don't bother me. I just go into my own head and I'm super focused about being in there. I don't like to have a big warm up. I like just do a little bit and like do what I wouldn't need to do, and then the main warm up for me is being inside my own mind, and then we get in there, then I completely see red.
Okay, so we took a little break there, and that's why you have a t-shirt on now.
Yeah.
For the ones that are watching this on YouTube. That was a great answer, but it was maybe a language barrier for me.
Okay.
What I meant with nerves were more the feeling, like the feeling going into a fight, walking into King of the Streets versus other things. If the feeling or just the emotion of entering a fight, if it's different. And I'm thinking more of the things that you talked about, the ambience, the people, the audience, and the setting. If that is something different for you.
Yeah, for me, like all of that is... nothing else compares to King of the Streets. Everything about it, like being around everybody who's watching, like the type of fighters, where they've come from, and for experience that I've had with MMA, I've never get that same nervous feeling, or even any sort of the same feeling as I do in King of the Streets. Like, it all makes a part of it. The location, the atmosphere, the type of place that you're fighting in, you know, the concrete floor, it all is in your mind about it, you know. And I think for me, I use it to make me more focused, especially the concrete floor, you know. It's always in the back of your mind about it. So for me, it doesn't make me more nervous, but the feeling is completely its own. Yeah, you know.
I have been thinking a lot about the concrete floor, so I'm glad you brought it up, because I've seen some crazy knockouts. But what amazes me is actually that I still haven't seen one actually hit, like the head in the concrete floor. And I haven't watched all the fights though. But the ones I've seen, even if they freeze up, the head actually doesn't hit the floor, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, but it's, you know, there's we've had fighters come to King of the Street too, of like professional fighters. They've had like over 60 fights, and like a mistake people make is that because you have a record like that and you're a professional fighter, been fighting for so many years, and that you can come into King of the Streets and be on that same level in King of the Streets. That isn't the case at all. It's like King of the Streets is its own completely. And I've seen people like crumble, you know, veteran fighters who come to King of the Streets and they fall to bits fighting from it, you know, because the concrete floor, it is one massive aspect that, like, even though you try and ignore the fact that it's there, it is in the back of people's mind that you're fighting on concrete floor. I mean, people don't do takedowns like they normally should, or they don't want to get in that situation where they're going to get slammed, or, you know, of course you don't want to be knocked out as well and like fall back and bang your head on the concrete floor. So I think a lot of people, it does, even though you try and ignore it, it does affect them like more than what they try and show.
So let's go into the persona then, the one you talked about at the stare down. When does that turn on?
Just when the guy calls me over and my opponent's there, then then I will switch completely to who I'm gonna be in the ring. And then once I've done the stare down, then I'll shake his hand. I'll be super respectful and humble, and then I'll go into my own mind. Then when we go into the cage, then I go back to that person, who I need to be fighting on King of the Street, you know.
So how do you find that person?
I like him for King of the Streets. I would, as I said before, I couldn't be that person out, you know. So many people when they speak to me are shocked that I'm so polite and but I fight like that, you know. And that is what I say. I do need to be a different person in there. So it's like, in my mind, it's kill or be killed when I fight on King of the Streets. Of course, I'm not trying to kill somebody, but somebody I feel like is trying to kill me, so I must survive. Anything I can do to survive that, you know. So I just use all of them little things to just make me more focused. I don't let them take control of me. I found a good way of like using them in the best way possible for King of the Streets. And nerves in any sport is a big thing, but in King of the Streets I found it's helped me a lot not to let them get a hold of me. I control them and use that type of stuff in the right way. So it's done so well for me now, and now I'm going into the bare knuckle boxing side. It's just like so easy for me to do in bare knuckle boxing, because I've fought on the most extreme sport and I'm still like actively fighting on King of the Streets, and compared to anything else is like nothing compares to it. So for me, it's just helps me in the bare knuckle boxing side to be even more focused and like determined, and I know exactly what I want to do, and it's easier for me to do it because I always compare everything to King of the Streets, and that's the most extreme part of it.
Training wise, do you train in a special kind of way when it comes to King of the Street fights compared to like bare knuckle boxing? Or
the left way, I just mixed the left way in with the MMA, so the grappling side of it. I mean, you can't not practice how to headbutt like you properly. I can do headbutts on the pads and stuff, but when we're grappling, I will, like, if there's an opening, I'll put my head there to know I can do that, you know. So I just mix the left way, the headbutts and stuff like that. That's worked well for King of the Streets for me, mixing the left way with the MMA and all of the best parts of the sport into one.
Do you have any fights right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna fight on the 26th of February.
Okay, that's really soon.
Yeah, I'm in fight camp now. Oh. That's why I may look a little bit tired at the moment. So me and my wife will be the first.
Yeah.
My wife competes as well, so she'll be the first female in the whole of Scandinavia to fight in bare knuckle, and we will be the first ever couple in bare knuckle history to fight on the same card in professional bare knuckle. So we have signed a 3-fight contract in an event in England for bare knuckle. So in 1 year we will have 3 fights. So this is our first in February. The next one will be June, and then probably the next one after that will be December. So there is potential for me and her to fight for a title on the same event this year. So if all goes well, as I think it will, hopefully we'll both have. I'll have another belt and she will have a first belt. So it's a massive thing, I think.
Okay, now we're into nerves then, because now you're both fighting. Yeah. How do you combine that? Because I've heard a lot of fighters, when they fight with their sisters or brothers, sometimes they say it puts so much pressure on them. Now you're going in as a couple, you're fighting on the same event, you're probably booked for 3 events. So does that put any extra nerve, or how do you work with that? I mean, you and her.
I think she gets more nervous watching me.
Oh.
Obviously, it's a bit different because it's King of the Streets, and I think that makes her nervous. For King of the Streets makes her nervous. But now bare knuckle. But my the way I am, how calm I am, makes her nervous as well, because she still thinks that there's like something might be up with me because I'm so quiet and so calm, and she thinks like the way she is before a fight is completely opposite to the way I am, you know. So I don't get nervous watching her fight because I really think she's so good for for her weight class, and she's so strong. She punches like a guy. So well, I've felt them so many times when we spar. I just know in her weight class she's gonna destroy everybody. So for me, I'm very confident, and I don't like get nervous watching her, worried, because I'm very confident in what she can do. I think she gets a little bit more nervous when I fight, just because it worries her sometimes that I'm so chilled. But that's just what I do. So.
But I've heard it's always worse to be in the corner of someone than fighting themselves.
Yeah, of course. I can understand that completely, because when you're in there, you're just in that moment, you know. But obviously in the corner, you see a lot more, you know, and you want to be able to help that person, but you can't as well. So I do understand. I would rather fight than be in the corner, being on that side of it, for sure.
So how are you going to do on that event? Is someone going to corner both of you, or are you going to help out? Or
no, we will just coach ourselves, each other. So we've asked to be like as far apart as we can on the fight card, so that we can corner each other.
So who goes first?
I think she will go first. Yeah. I think she wants that, and I think it makes more sense for her to go first, because it doesn't bother me at all when I am. So if it helps her to go first, then that's better for me, if I can help her that way.
So how's fight camp going?
It's going good. Now at this time, you get like little niggles, and I'm so tired all the time. And but I like that feeling, you know. Yesterday we did a disgusting circuit with the bike and some bag work, and afterwards we were both completely dead. But I like this feeling, this part of the fight camp, you know. Everything starts coming together, and now we're not learning anything new, we're just sharpening what we know, and our fitness is there anyway. So it's a nice place to be in now in the fight camp, the point we're at. So it's cool.
So when you practice bare knuckle boxing, how do you do? Because you want to have strength in your wrists and all of that, because it's easier to break your hands because there are no gloves and protection. You
know, for me, I've been lucky. Like, I know other professional bare knuckle boxers, they save their hands for the fight, so they train in gloves all the time, and some of them even put extra protection under the gloves because their hands don't hold up. But for me, I have not trained with gloves now for 2 years. I've never had an injury once with my hand. I mean, I had 4 bare knuckle fights last year alone, and not one injury on my hand. So I'm very lucky. I think my hands were solid anyway, but now they're like concrete. I only train without gloves on the pads, on the bag, and it helps me a lot. Matilda does the same. So for us, it works well to train without. You need to be used to that, in my opinion. Unless you know your hands don't hold up, then I understand people protecting them until the fight. But for us, we can train without, so we do, and it helps a lot.
Do you use different gear or something?
Yeah, actually, Ascari have a special bare knuckle boxing pad, which is really good. So before that, we were just using Thai pads, and they're like punching pieces of wood almost compared to what Ascari have brought out. So they have like a special spot pad, which has like an air cushion in the middle of it, so it absorbs the power of the punches. So they're by far the best pads that I've used for bare knuckle boxing. They're really good.
Anything else that you use that other people don't?
No, they're the main ones. I mean, as I was saying before, that we were using time it. So there isn't anything particularly made for bare knuckle. It's just I'm glad we used the Thai pads before because it has conditioned our hands so well, and now it's nice to have actual pads that were made for bare knuckle boxers. So nothing any different than that. I mean, just training without it is enough in my eyes. It's worked well for us.
How do you see this sport evolving in like 5 to 10 years?
It's going in a good direction at the moment. I mean, but it is slowly. I mean, I see the guys now that I was following before I ever got into bare knuckle boxing, like the biggest event in England, BKB. I see like on their Instagram and stuff, and like even the BKB Instagram site, they don't have like a massive following, you know. It's not, even though especially in England it's like, and it's very suited to England to fight bare knuckle. It doesn't seem like there's a massive following or like a massive support behind it. But now recently, I definitely see a lot more people get it being brought to their attention, you know. So it's definitely on the up and coming. It's going in the right direction now. Even in Sweden now, they have the event KSP, and they have a partnership with an event in England. So it's all going in the right direction, for sure.
So where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
I have no idea. I just concentrate on this year. So at the end of this year, I would be happy if we both had a title shot again together. That's my dream at the moment. I mean, like, it's crazy because 1 year ago, me and my wife were sat in front of our TV and we're like, oh shit, it would be so amazing if we had 2 bare knuckle belts above our TV. And now I have one above my TV, and now there's a chance of her having one as well. And it's like, at the time it was such a crazy, just a dream that we were joking about, and now it's actually coming true and we're getting the opportunity to do that. So this year is going to be, I had such an active and good year last year, like 4 bare knuckle fights, not to be injured. It's like very active and very good, like good year for me, finishing with winning a belt at the end of the year in December in bare knuckle boxing. So this year is going to be a massive one for both of us. My wife has been out of fighting because we had the kid together, and then COVID hit, and then there was like no event. So she was supposed to fight on another event called Ragnarok, and cut a long story short, it all fell to pieces like at last minute. So she's like been waiting to fight for so long. So she is like, I'm happy for her. I'm more happy for her to be able to fight this on February, because I know how long she's been waiting for it, and she's very similar to me. I know she's competed and been competing a lot longer than I have, and she bare knuckle boxing is made for her. I just know it. So I expect like really good things for us this year.
What's her background?
She's fought in MMA, K1, Muay Thai, boxing. So that's all of her background, and now she's going to do a debut in bare knuckle boxing on the 26th of February.
So it's close.
Nice. Yeah, it's very close. I can't wait now. Now we go on Tuesday on the 15th of February, so...
Okay, so you're going to be like 10 days.
Yeah, because the last fight we had in December, we had to quarantine because we were unvaccinated. So we had to go there, we had to do quarantine. So we was like doing training in the backyard of my mum's house for like 10 days, you know. And then, so that wasn't ideal. So this time we'll be able to go there and like continue our fight camp, you know. Before we had to do all of the hard work before we went to England, so we could just keep it ticking over when we got there.
And how's family life?
Family life's good. It's different having a kid. It's hard, you know, because me and Matilda we never planned on having a kid because we were enjoy our life, what we were doing, like just living our life together, like doing what we wanted. So when we had our son Zion, we one of the main things, the reasons why we were going to have him is that to be sure that he was going to become a part of our life and we didn't have to completely stop everything we're doing to become parents. Otherwise it wouldn't have worked. So we've done exactly what we wanted. We got like the best child ever. He's so chilled. He loves being in the gym with us. He's in the gym with us 5 days a week. I mean, he's been like that since he was like a month old. So now he's 1.5. He's starting to kick and punch the bags, and it like makes me so proud. And it's like we're blessed completely to have a child, so who lets us do what we do still now. So I'm very lucky.
Is he going with you to England?
Yeah, he's going with me to England, and my mum gets to babysit him, so she's happy. So while we will go and fight, my mum will watch him overnight, and yeah, he will come everywhere with us. He's our little guy, little gang member.
What does she say about you're fighting now, your mom?
My mum, especially now when I've just won the belt, and that fight was so important to me as well, because it was the one after all my friends seeing me get knocked out. That was the next one that they come to watch, was for this title fight. So I really wanted to, I didn't do it for anyone else, that fight, but it was nice to show them how like much I've improved and like the type of fighter I am now, which was totally different to what I was back then. So it was nice to like hear that they don't think it's a stupid decision. Like now they praise me for like, well done for keep going after, you know, after they understand how hard it was for me at that time, and now to get to the point I'm at now. So it was good. It was nice to get their support, like, and they understand a little bit more of why I do this, you know, and not just think it's like a stupid decision almost.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited to watch your fight and follow your career.
Yes.
And how can people watch the fight if people want to watch it? How and where?
There is a live stream on my Instagram. So my Instagram is Liam W Hype, and the link is in the bio. So if anybody wants to watch me and Matilda fight on the same card, representing Sweden, yeah, click the link in the bio and they'll be able to watch it on there. It's gonna be cool.
Awesome. So yes. 3 fights this year.
3 fights this year. Yes.
And New Year's Eve, watching TV. 2 belts.
Oh, yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream. I believe it can happen. Like I'm not one person for be overly confident, but like I just feel like this is the right thing and this is meant to be. So I believe that's gonna happen.
Awesome. You'll send me the photo.
I will.
Great. Hey, thank you for having. Thanks for having you. Yeah. It's been an interesting story, and I'm actually looking forward to maybe sitting with you within a year or something.
Yeah, that would
talk
be
again,
awesome. Yeah,
and we'll see where you wind up and what's happening. Because I'm also seeing a lot of UFC fighters going to the bigger promotions, and who knows when the stars align and then the winds get on.
Hopefully, definitely, that would be cool, man. Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you very much. Om ni gillade det, or if you like what you saw, men I'm gonna take this in Swedish. För om ni gillade det ni såg så finns det jättemånga intervjuer som ni kan kolla in. Och missa inte MMA-podden släpper ett nytt avsnitt varje måndag. Tack för att ni lyssnade. Hej då.